Yeah, dude. I just, just see your.
No, it's really smart.
Let me turn
We should be good here. Do you see anything, Scott, on the video?
No, you're not. Let me refresh it.
Yeah. Anything?
Still not.
Okay, we're almost there. We're gonna give it 10 more seconds and then we'll get back on.
Okay, we're good.
You got a picture?
Yes, we do.
Very good.
To our right.
All right. Hello, everybody out there. All right, mother. Whoa, I'm sorry. 1 second. Excellent. All right.
So
Let's,
before we start,
yeah. Here, Mother, I'm gonna grab this cup from you.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Everybody settled?
And we've got 28 minutes.
Great. Excellent.
Okay, man.
Very good.
Good.
Okay, cool. So,
You want to come in a little bit more? Or actually, can I do like...
That looks nice from up here.
Yeah, you can see yourself right on the screen. Doesn't that look nice?
Oh, yeah, that's good. That's great.
Nice lighting.
Yeah, nice lighting is right. Even I'm pretty good at it.
Oh, it looks great.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, yeah. All right.
We're staying. We got a little video feed here. All right. Okay, team.
okay. All right, everyone settle up, please. All right, go ahead and roll up. Great, the camera is speeding. And give me 1 second. Okay, whenever you're ready.
In action. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about art now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear a little bit about art. And so we can pretend that I don't know a lot about art. I don't really know that much, and I want to know more. I feel like you're the master at this point. How would you define art?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, it's so comprehensive. It would seem to be a simple answer and yet an all-embracing answer. I would say probably the best is beauty, depth, the divine, creation, man, God. So many, there's so much, but that's the one term, art, How do we define it? Probably the easiest way or the simplest way or what we would understand best is that man's creativity in response to God. Maybe that would be the best answer. Man's creativity in response to God, to God's inspiration, and in response to God's love. You know, we have to do something. We can't just worship God, or even in the ordinary means, like going to church, saying the divine office, keeping the commandments, saying prayers, or penance. There has to be something within us that would seem to be like, well, there's nothing really original with us because everything does stem from God. Everything originates with God. But we have to have something, what we seem to think or what we feel is original, coming from us toward God, for God. We have to have a response to God. And one that is overpowering, one that takes in all of our being, one that is a complete dedication, a complete gift of self. I guess that's what I would say art is. Yeah, that, I never thought of that before, but as you posed the question, it would seem to be that what it really is the complete and total gift of self to God in ways that befit us as creatures. I know that sounds probably rather strange, but, well, that's about all I could say, because I don't think I could come up with anything better than that. So, in consequence, when we paint, when we compose the greatest music there is in the world, we always think we want to do the greatest painting. We want to do create the greatest architecture, a statue that is living. We want to create music that resounds through the heavens. I think it's the idea of man's response to God. Couldn't think of anything different than that. I think that's it. Anything else? I mean, sometimes if I continue, trying to describe or trying to say words, it would seem superfluous somehow. It's man's total response to God.
Would you say it's sort of a mystery?
Yes, I would. It's enwrapped in love, though. It's love. It's not something that you just do for God or just something of your own, supposedly. No, it's mystery. You're right. I would say that, but I think it's a total gift of man's love. It's man's total gift of love for God. In ways that, it's insofar as he can do. We're so limited, and yet there's that overwhelming desire, which in a way is infinite, because God puts that infinite desire for himself, within us. We're never happy with anything, on earth or with created things. We're always searching for him. We're always striving and longing for him. We might not know it, or we might not, define it in that way, but we are. We're just never. I think someone has once said that. I can't even quote it now. So. He's our all in all, and all that we are, I guess, our total self is. So anything we do, or what we're given to do, as an act of love for God, it could be art. We think of art mainly as, expressing creatively in music, painting, and dancing. Color, architecture, and that's all very true. That's it. Expressly, they're creative gifts that we are able to, perform and to contribute to God's glory. But of course, He has given that to us in the first place. We're just doing what He's given us. So. I don't know. Can you think of anything?
We'll keep going all around this. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You did fantastic. That was a really beautiful answer.
I think I like to think of, well, for my own self now. As far as art goes, gosh, it's I just the thing is you really want to pour out your soul to God and all the another thing too is. You don't want to, now like getting back to, I think any artist, they don't want to be doing just anything, It has to be, like for myself, personally, it would have to be something, I say something large, something like a large concept, of course I've always been, interested in mural painting, stained glass, and arts, architecture. Things like that I would like to do in art. It's not so much some of the smaller gifts. I mean, you hate to use the words small and large and big. It's as though you're comparing importances. And that's not true either. It's the idea that the person feels he wants to give his utmost. He wants to give totally. So he tries to think in large terms. So I try to, but that's the whole thing. You want to give yourself total. I think I've had so many graces lately in relation to our Blessed Mother. I feel as though within the last few years, I've really come to know her better, and I could read and reread. I mean, books on the Incarnation especially, where she is so involved in it. I could just read and never tire of them. And there's so many ideas I have, like 4 paintings on the Incarnation. I would like to do I would love to do a large painting that would take in several scripture passages, like say start with the Book of Wisdom. There's a passage there, I think it's Wisdom chapter 15, 18, something like that. I could, if I had a Bible, I could quote it. But anyway, it would start with the Book of Wisdom, and it would continue with Isaiah and St. John. But I think probably those 3 sources especially, I would like to deal with, do something on the Incarnation. And I can picture the whole thing. I can picture the whole composition already completed. I mean, the color scheme and the compositional arrangements, the figures. And so if I were to start this tomorrow, I could, so because I have the theme already in mind. But I just, as I say before, I just can't think of any better description of art, because I think you can't limit it to just one field or one phase. I mean, it's not just architecture, it's not just painting, it's not, it's, I think, man's total activity, total creativity devoted to God, dedicated to Him, in response to His life-giving love. That's about what I think. I can't put it any better than that.
Perfect. Let's go back a few years. I heard that you went to school for art. Is this?
Yeah.
I'd like to hear a little bit about, because you said that you wanted to be, you wanted to do a lifeguard. Is that what you?
Oh yes, I did.
How did you get from wanting to do all of these things outside? How did you get to this idea of wanting to study art? What was that like?
Yeah, well, that's interesting, because I did. I loved doing all these things outside, and I think that's what. I just love to do them, and I love nature, and I love being outdoors. And of course, you felt so close to God. You just were within His creation, and you just enjoyed every bit of it. And I think, the art, we had a very good teacher in high school, a very good art teacher. And he introduced us to a lot of different phases of art. Like, say, for instance, even mural painting. We had small panels in our high school, outside the art room in high school, that we could have decorated with murals. And some students did. I didn't at the time that I was in high school. But some of the students did, and they were good. And I thought, this is really neat. And he taught us a lot of different things. It wasn't just the standard watercolor and tracing type pencil, maybe a few oils, He really delved into it. We could do like abstract design, abstract pieces, designs. And I think we had some movies in art, or no, maybe they weren't. Well, we did have some, but some of the movies that I was thinking of, they were actual films, and they were like art films in the sense that, I remember one popular one was called The Red Shoes. It was a story of a ballerina, and there were others too. I think there was a film on Tchaikovsky and different things that I'd seen, at that time. And so he encouraged, like I say, all different types, and he delved in it, like even abstract pieces, or you could do your own thing in designing, like there are the different styles, like you have Picasso style of Cubism, you have Dali style of Surrealism, and you have, and there are many, and there are others. And then there's the beauty of stained glass windows too. And in the 50s, stained glass really underwent a renaissance. I mean, it wasn't just these stereotype designs like what we have here, you know. And they're beautiful windows, but in a sense, they're kind of stereotype. But so many of the modern churches and contemporary, there was all different kinds. And if you see I have some stained glass magazines too. In fact, if you'd be interested in taking it to look at, you could. I could give it to you. But it was just fabulous, and he introduced us to all these things. And you know, and most teachers wouldn't maybe even think of it. So that's in high school. I took junior and senior high school art. So I was introduced that way, and it just kind of fed your imagination because you could. So after that, I went to the Art Institute of Chicago. And well, there you learn the basics of drawing and all that too, you know, much more so. And there we had oil painting and that. And as you got into your second year, it was more creative too. And so then, and then our figure drawing teacher at the Art Institute, I think I was second year student then, and so I was doing something. He was looking at my work and he says, "Boy, this is just like Rivera." He says, you do. Are you familiar with Mexican artists?" And I said, "Well, a little bit." And he says, "Your work is just like Rivera." It reminded him of Rivera. Well, that was it. That was a touchstone. And so, boy, I did everything I could to advance my own techniques, and I had a lot of ideas for different designs and things like that, abstracts and sort of cubistic themes and just different themes anyway, and then all kinds. And so I did them, and because you have to provide a portfolio in the first place for the Art Institute to begin with, and then for the place in Mexico where I was, and then I did all did all that. It was really exciting, and I had friends in New York too. So after Mexico, I went to New York for a while. I didn't study so much there, but I did a lot of work, and I displayed. I exhibited a few things, So at some of the galleries there, and I worked in stained glass then. And I started in New York. I wasn't there real long. I went back to Chicago because I thought the real impetus was in stained glass, and some of the more contemporary art fields was in Chicago, really. So I loved that anyway. I loved that. That's where I went, like I say, at the Chicago Art Institute. Then I went away. Then returning there, there was a lot more chances for doing different things. And
how did you get to Mexico? Tell me about Mexico. What?
Oh, that was fascinating. Well, of course, I was acquainted with it through the Mexican artists because I read as much as I could. I mean, I loved what they were doing. I thought that's just what I would love. Because they were doing themes, too, that were really for their people. And you could say they were not religious themes, but it kind of lended itself to religion, too, in a sense that you kind of got ideas for religious themes, for spiritual themes, From their styles were so powerful. Oh, they were terrific. I mean, there's what they call a triumvirate. That's how you pronounce the word. I never quite get it. Rivera and Siqueiros and Orozco, they were the greatest, and they were the three chief ones. There were others too, but they were lesser known. There were maybe two others too that were really on a par with Siqueiros and them. They were a little later, but because you could do so many things, and there were a lot of themes that I explored, a lot of historical ones, and some religious. Well, I got into it, but it was mostly Mexican history, I think, at that time. And then I was thinking of going to South America after Mexico, or after a while, after my schooling was finished. I thought about that, and I thought, gee, because they had a big art movement there too. And that's when stained glass was blooming. Oh, that was really just, that, and especially in the States, with stained glass was really just, like I say, a real renaissance. And you could incorporate all kinds of things. Well, I mean, there were religious themes, and you wanted, I mean, that's what I was after too, because, you know, your faith kind of developed then, and basically doing the historical or the educational or political themes first, that it kind of was a starting point for the more spiritual.
I have a question about the style.
Yes.
You said maybe you could talk a little bit about what attracted you to the style of Cubism. Is that what you said? Cubism and Rivera.
Yes, or Cubism, I guess.
Tell me about that, because when I remember when I first saw your work, you know, you see a lot of stuff that looks very realistic and things, and I saw yours, and something really stood out to me about it. How did you get involved with that style?
I think it was. I have it in my mind. Was it some of the architecture or something? Well, I think it was probably the Mexican artists, because some of those were really cubistic, you know, to a certain degree. It just kind of developed. Well, stained glass too. You have a lot of like squared off points. You know, there's in some of the contemporary stained glass, it is sort of cubistic in style, you know, because you have some of these, stick of tea. I think because, you know, the designs, in a sense, the drawing was simple, and you could produce like some real important theme or some important subject. I'm trying to think of something as an example that I did, or that I think there was a religious theme, but the Cubism, it struck me as because you could, you know, I think there's a quality, a strength about it, and a certain simplicity about it. You know, I'm really trying to think back just what did. I think there's something that you can really, you know, sort of simplify features and make, like, say, for instance, a face. You know, you could, like, as a cubist, instead of making a round, fleshy face, you know, I thought of, too, the angular sort of thing. It, you know, sort of expresses character, or you could express character in a less realistic face. Like, if you were to draw me just as I am, well, it might be okay, it might be nice, but then if you did a cubistic portrait of me, you might see in me some things, some characteristics that you wouldn't see otherwise. You could develop those certain characteristics much more than you would in a straight realistic piece. So I might, certain tendencies I have, certain, like a psychological portrait it would be. So they might, somebody might, well, you know, make, you know, exaggerate some parts of my face, or some expression or something. They might, you know, if they were doing one of me, or they might see things that they don't like so much, they might put that in and maybe accentuate it. Cubism and some of the contemporary designs do that. Surrealism does that a lot. I mean, they're like psychological studies. Or psychiatric, you know, I mean, you can, like, it shows a character, or it shows a meaning behind this or that, you know. I think that's what it is.
Would you say that it's difficult to create psychological or these very hard-edged, sometimes, paintings of religious themes? Could you talk about that maybe a little bit?
Oh, I could, yeah. I think sometimes too, like, well, say for instance in pictures of Christ, maybe that would be the ideal starting point. You know, so many of them, and I mean, I don't mean to be offensive in any way, but to me, so many of the images of Christ, especially in the past, they were saccharine. They were extremely effeminate. To me, it was disgusting. I just didn't. You know, that's not Christ at all. I mean, True, yeah, he was a tender, loving soul, but that's not the thing. He's God, and you want to portray him. I'm not saying I'm doing any of this, but you want to portray him in a way that he's divine. He was a real man. He was a God, he was true God and true man, and that's how you want to make him. So, do anything possible to strengthen those characteristics. So if a cubism does it, great. If some other way does it, I really wanted to make strong features, strong character, And like I say, I think, I'm not anywhere near to it, but that's what you're after. So that's why I think we continue. You never give up. Could be easily tempted, to give up art or to do something else, or not just me, but it would seem impossible to reach your goals but you don't. You just keep trying and trying. I never tire of a subject. I could do Jesus until the end of the world, and I never tire of it. I try something different all the time. I think with our Blessed Mother, with the saints, with any spiritual theme, I think anything, like now the Trinity, I've even, delved into that. I have an idea, I have a couple of, I mentioned the one about the Incarnation. I also have one that I would love to, maybe in stained glass. Let me just tell you this one thing. The Spirit hovering over the waters. Wow, that would make a terrific window, because you'd have these dark spaces on the outside, but then inside is coming down in the Spirit, flashing orange, white orange, there would be something, and he would come down, he would make an image, sort of like a dove, but it would be much stronger. Again, some of your cubism would come in that. But that, and then all the creatures, the Spirit would come down and awaken, and creation, and he would, hovering over the waters and creation and so on. So that would all come about,
Have you ever been criticized before for being too modern with your art?
I guess not really. Of course, I never. No, I haven't.
Okay.
Probably people do, but I haven't heard it.
I think it's so beautiful, and everyone that I've shown it to has been so supportive. But sometimes people get very...
yeah, for sure. I think there's. I think I know of someone. I won't mention the person, but I think I know of someone that really doesn't like it. I know somebody rather close to me that I think doesn't really like it, And there are probably others too, but no, I don't think, not actually. When I think of it though, in the past, when you try to, consider the past, I remember one man, he sort of criticized it. He says, your work is so hard. You should be softer. You should get softer. I remember that was a long time ago. He says, you're harsh. Well, I'm not going to, and I wasn't going to bend for him either. I just felt I have to do what I have to do, and I'm not going to make Christ or any of my religious paintings that are saccharine, that type of thing. Because that's not what they were. And your saints, and Blessed Mother, the courage that they show, the strength of character, really, that's, you wouldn't want to make them, you just want to do the best, do the best you can. So, yeah, I had some, I think, but that, like I say, those are not much. I think maybe some of these movements are more accepted, too, than they were years ago. At this stage in age, I think they're pretty much accepted.
It's a great time to pause.
Great pause.
So great.
We're gonna change our memory card. Yeah. Take a deep breath.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's so great. I want to ask you, once we get rolling again, I'm going to ask you a little bit about modern art.
Yes.
Because I'm such a fan of it, but I know a lot of.
Yeah, Picasso too. Yeah. Me too.
I want to hear about this art.
Yes.
And you're happy with this angle for a while?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to? You tell me when you want to get closer. Okay.
Okay. Do you think?
how many more? I think we're going to be gone for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
About
let's
half
stay
an hour.
here. Yeah, let's stay here for a little while. Here's what I'm going to do. 5-minute warning.
Okay, that's great.
2, 3, okay?
3 5-minute warnings?
1, 2, 3. Okay. That's 5-minute warning.
And then a 1-minute warning?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I'll do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
And then,
This is how we can. This is
So
how we
you got your own codes.
Yeah, right. This is how. So he lets me know because we only have each. It's like a roll of film basically. You
Oh,
have
yeah.
36 shots.
Yes.
So with this we have we have a certain amount of time, so we have to calculate it.
Oh, I see. That's neat. That's
1,
neat.
2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you though about
Yeah,
the cut.
we're gonna
I would
talk.
love to hear about
We're gonna.
this.
This is. It's.
Ready?
How's everybody doing back there? Good.
Everyone good?
Very good.
Cool. We want to roll up?
Let's roll.
Okay, let's roll up. Everyone settle,
Speed,
please.
please.
Great. We got pictures. Settle. 1 second. Let me make sure we got focus.
Gotta zoom out here a little bit.
Great. I am ready when you are, Dan.
All right. And action. Okay. So I want to hear a little bit about modern art, and I ask you this question from the perspective of I have friends, very religious friends, that say, well, modern art is not good. It's wrong. It's bad. It's too progressive. Things like that. What do you think? I mean, what do you think about this? When we say modern art, I guess you could define it a little bit for me. But these recent movements in art, how do you feel about those?
Well, I feel they're very good. Now, there are some that maybe go too far, whereas they are almost like ridiculing art altogether. And so they'll make these scribbly type things, that's bad. I mean, you can almost tell the difference between what real modern art is, what real good art is, and what is not. Some of these maybe some of these psychological drawings that are, or they try to, they just maybe make them too, sometimes maybe ridiculous, maybe more in a cartoon. I mean, sometimes cartoons are better than some of these things that you see that are classified as art. It's hard to say. I mean, I know that when I see something that's kind of like where the drawing is excessively poor, or where it's just something like scribbled, like it would look like maybe a little kid's drawing. I mean, now for a little kid that's fine, for a 3-4-year-old that's fine. But you see a grown up doing something like that, it's silly. I mean, to me that doesn't go, the modern art movements in themselves are very good. They've opened up a lot of creativity and a lot of opportunities for artists, for people that would never be artists, and maybe some great art has been, I mean, I'm sure, in fact, a lot of great art might have been accomplished, might never have been accomplished if it hadn't been for those people. Now, in fact, I might not have ever been doing it myself. I might never have gotten into it. But because these movements were beginning pretty much around my time when I was young, in the late 30s, 40s, and they were kind of beginning that, it's been opened up a whole new world to, I think, a lot of people, for a lot of artists, for a lot of persons that maybe take art as therapy. Maybe they're encouraged to do something which they would never have been if art had just been considered a very realistic photographic, not even, just a very saccharine type image of, well, say not only religious images, usually religious images are that way, and it's too bad. But anyway, there might have been a lot of great artists that would have never existed. Maybe even the Mexican muralists would never have. I mean, who knows, But I think the modern movements have opened up chances for creativity in a whole lot of different fields in art, a whole different lot of subject matter, maybe scientific studies. I mean, so many of your even surrealist paintings, which is very fine, detailed, and they'll take like microscopic things and blow them up, so to speak. They might blow it up through a microscope or whatever, but they'll blend these forms. And then you learn about these forms. You have learned, I mean, without the art processes and without the scientific advancements, we've gotten to learn so much more than we have years and years ago. I mean, when I was a kid, and so that's a real advantage there. So there's all advantage. Creativity, I think, has really been opened up through the modern movements, and I give a lot of credit to that. But again, it can always be abused too. I mean, everything can be abused, and sometimes they can maybe make drawings or designs or paintings, and maybe can be really just purposely sloppy and saying, well, this is modern art. Or sometimes you'll see these pictures of like a black square on a white canvas, just one black square and maybe a red circle or something. Okay, because I mean there is that type of art. There's a name for it too. I can't think of it right now. I probably will think of it later. But I mean, real simple thing. They'll do some crazy things, or maybe a whole blue canvas, a dark blue canvas, and maybe just one white streak going through it, or a lot of maybe sloppy. I mean, it could be anything. I mean, like I say, it can be abused like anything else. I just think to myself, and then maybe on the other hand, some of these things too, where they're real overly simple, but maybe they mean something to that artist, not only to the artist, but to someone viewing it. It might be an experience of theirs in some way, maybe through some sickness, through some tragedy, or some, like paralyzing experience that that it might have meaning for them, maybe not for anybody else. So it's just it's interesting, but it's all encompassing in a way, but I still go for the modern. I did read something, and this is really unusual and quite interesting. I was away for retreat at one time to another convent, the convent in let's see, it was I know. I can think of the names. This one sister there. I mean, she was a good friend. Well, I'm breaking away from my thought pattern. But okay, so I went on retreat, and I went through their library, and they had some books on art. One was on what they called modernistic art. And now that was interesting. That's an interesting term, because modernistic art is what they mean by that is something they try to do, like people that try to do modern art, but it's not modern art. It's actually in the book they had pictures they had religious themes. They were anything but good. I mean, what they were really blasphemies, really. It was the way they expressed the Virgin Mary, not only Christ, but different other religious themes. I mean, it was terrible. Like Christmas scenes, for instance, or Christmas themes. They were so distorted and so kind of a morbidity to it. And actually, the book, I was struck by that book. I thought modernistic art, well, I thought it would be a good art book or interesting, but it was anything but that. It was shocking. So, but you see, that's all abuse again, in the name of, so there's everything can, be done, I mean, like, for bad purposes too, I mean, or to, kind of encourage evil or whatever. But it was really very depressing. But I thought that's an interesting experience. I never ran across that since. But those things do exist. And they say that so many of the communists too, like, I guess Picasso might have been, I think he was a communist too. I think, yeah, I'm quite sure he was. But you can't blame the movements on what sometimes people do either, that's the thing. So, yeah, take it for what it is. But I'm for the modern movements, but you have to be sincere in them. And I think you have to have drawing ability. At least you have to have really, really basic ability in color and design and drawing, draftsmanship. You can't just go in there and slop something on a canvas and say, well, this is a work of art, this is a modern art, or this is such and such a thing.
It reminds me, when you say that, it reminds me of the phrase, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder.
Yeah, that's perfect.
What do you think of that, though? I mean,
well, that's, beauty in the eyes of the beholder. Well, I guess so. We each know, we each know what is beautiful, or we each see what is beautiful, and what we think is, well, beauty in the eyes of the beholder. I guess. I can't disagree with that either, But then, on the other hand, what is beauty in the eyes of the beholder? Some of these ugly things might not be beauty in the eyes of the beholder either. Some of these ugly. I mean, if you really saw bad things in art, or some things, that you could say are really maybe almost like an evil intent or something. I mean, that's hard too, but.
Sounds very mysterious, all this.
Yeah, that's the mystery of it all.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to know what it was like living in Mexico and New York during those years.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about, you say that you basically went through your education and you lived in New York and Chicago and Mexico during this revolution, basically.
Yeah.
What was that like being in the middle of it?
Well, actually, it was the revolution that when I went to Mexico, that was in the 50s. Guatemala had a revolution at that time.
I mean like an art movement.
The art movements. Oh, yeah. Well, yes. Well, see, the Mexicans were very much concerned. I mean, they lived through those revolutions. Now, some of that was against the church too, and there are these martyred saints like Miguel Pro, and and I would have loved, if I were there, I would have loved to have done some things on. I didn't know about these, or I wasn't familiar, but I could have done something terrific on that what they've suffered. They all suffered. Now, like many of the Mexican painters that were revolutionary, or these revolutions, a lot of them. They had the revolutions because they were trying to defend the poor, or they were trying to bring up the living conditions of the poor, And a lot of these artists, a lot of these intellectuals in Mexico too, and they became communists. Not that they were Stalinist communists, or not for the dictatorship, but they wanted to bring up the level of poverty, so it's hard, but there's an interesting story. Rivera. Now, he was communist. He was brought up Catholic, but he changed and became a communist. Like I say, they were never the Stalinist type, But and he went to Russia and he belonged to the party, and he practiced communism just as much as any of them, and Siqueiros and them did too. But their hearts, they, like I say, and they did it in their paintings in the sense that, like Siqueiros has a painting in the Vatican Museum now, and it's a portrayal of the crucified Christ, but it's just a portrait, and it shows Christ crowned with thorns, and very, it was kind of very simplistic drawing, but it was very expressive about how Christ was tortured, and he says, "Oh, Christian, is this what you think of your Christ?" That was the title underneath. That Siqueiros had given it. It's a very moving portrait. I'm trying to think. I wish I had. I don't think I have it though. But anyway, no, that it was in a way. It was like I say, simplistic drawing. But he meant something by that. And I guess there were in Mexico too, there was like the rich and the sort of like bourgeoisie, I think they say, these people that were wealthy, and they were in the church, but they were better than everybody else, you know, they thought of themselves. And they were very wealthy and not generous. I mean, they were not good Christians at all as such, you know. I mean, at that time, supposedly. So anyway, I mean, you know, you judge for yourself, or you just in reading that history. But no, as you were saying, well,
maybe a better way to phrase the question would be, what did it feel like being a student when all of these movements in the art world were going on in Chicago, New York, and Mexico? What was it like being a student and learning?
Well, I thought it was exciting. I was very happy about it. I thought it was terrific. In fact, I did some, in Chicago, that's when I thought of going to Mexico, the first place, because I knew, well, like let's see now, some of the revolutions at that time. I mean, it was safe to, you were not, the people were not, when I went there was nobody being persecuted at that time, and I think they were trying to uphold the poor, trying to improve conditions. I mean, when I was there, you know, there was like an improvement. But I did several things. I did one for the Venezuelan embassy because I was thinking of going to South America. So while I was in Mexico, I visited the Venezuelan embassy. My cousin was a medical mission sister in Venezuela, and I think about going down there because they seem to have a good art movement going too. So, influenced by the Mexicans, you know, and so I mean, this is also long ago too, but. So I did a painting, a black and white ink drawing on the progress that Venezuela was making in modern times, modern architecture, design, medicine, all that they were doing to develop their own country. But at the same time, there was that, and I did something on the Guatemalan Revolution too, because that was going on at the time that I was interested in, that I went to Mexico. That was gosh, I'm trying to even think of the year now. Yeah, that was around 52, I think I went to Mexico. And all those things were going on. As I look back, sometimes I have to sit here and close my eyes and try to think, gee, when was this? What? But the Guatemalans had a revolution, and it was very similar to that which took place in 1984 in El Salvador, you know, and but see, then in Mexico too. But see, I mean, there's so much, you know, sometimes it can be so one-sided in these things, and you don't always get all the information on both sides. Because I think the church in Mexico, like, they suffered too, you know, and well, of course, like I say, they were persecuted, like the martyrs there and so on. So it was really interesting. I mean, things were calm at the time that I went, fairly calm. I mean, the Mexicans were, the artists were well accepted, very well accepted. They were kind of against some of the saccharine type art too that I hated so much. I mean, they wouldn't take for any foolishness or anything, like, you know. It had to be really something with power to it. I thought, that's great. I want to do the same thing. But you know, there's a very interesting story about I have to tell you this one thing about Rivera, rather. He's the most famous of all the 3-4 Mexican painters. He was the most skillful and the most, what do I want to say? Probably the most diverse, the most, isn't it funny? I can't think of the word. But anyway, probably the most original of all of them. And he worked in so many different styles. And he was good at realism. And he was a communist, and he went to Russia and all of that. He went to Russia not too long before he died. Well, he himself said he was an atheist, and he said in one of his murals that God did not exist. Now, he painted that right in the mural. Okay. So that was before I went to Mexico. This was early. So, now, he was supposed to have died, I think. Let's see. I don't know the year. I think he probably was in his 70s or 80s. But he lived a good long life. But he was in Russia, and there were things that were going wrong for him. He loved the Russian people too, and well, he was communist and all, I suppose. So anyhow, he went to Russia, and I guess there were disagreements between himself, his group, and the Communist Party of Russia. Well, of course, at that time, I think it was pretty much Stalinist, and the real communism, the real persecuting type dictatorship. But he had to escape at night to get back to America, to get back to Mexico. He had to leave at a certain time. And he was scheduled to leave at a certain, and he had to go. I mean, this story that I read. Well, before he died, he removed, he had a conversion process. Anyway, he would always deny he was Catholic too, he always denied that. But toward the very end, he removed the phrase that God does not exist from the mural that he painted. That I think it was in Mexico City, and I'm trying to think. I think it was a hotel, Cuernavaca or something like that. I think it was in a hotel, either that or at University City. But anyway, so he erased that phrase that God does not exist, and then sometime later, I think it was kind of shortly before his death, he wrote this. He addressed it to the public. He said that Our Lady of Guadalupe is the real savior of the Mexican people. And he said, let's see now, I don't know, no, he admitted he was Catholic. He again defended his Catholic religion. He again said that he is Catholic. And he said this through the radio, I think it was to the radio at the time, but public address. And he said the real protectress of the Mexican people is Our Lady of Guadalupe. I thought, that's the last, I think shortly after he died.
I've got a short question for you. I mean, just it wasn't common for a woman to be traveling on her own. For a woman to be traveling on her own in that time, I mean, what was it like traveling to these countries?
Oh, for me, you mean?
Yeah. Why don't you sit back? Why don't you sit back?
Yeah.
Why don't you sit back a little bit and we can.
Okay.
I want to hear about it.
I just wanted to make it.
Oh yeah, no, I can ask the same question that he said.
Yeah.
So what was it like, being an artist and traveling as a woman?
Oh, it was neat. I mean, it was, it was, because when I started traveling on my own, I think that was in the 50s, so that wasn't bad. It was fun, and it was nice. And as a woman, no problem. I mean, it was just fine. I thought it was good at the time. Just it's kind of like today. No, I didn't find any difficulties. Not really. Yeah, it was okay, and we had all the modern conveniences. I mean, enough what you would expect at that particular time. The 40s, 50s, the 50s, yeah, because I think I was like, say, I was going to the Art Institute at 52, 53, 54, I went to Mexico, so I was about 21, I think, at the time. Yeah, 21, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice. It was okay. Yeah, and then there was conveniences, and at that time, too, I remember I got awfully sick on some of the food going down there, and so luckily, when I returned, they had, in this one drugstore, they had Dramamine at the time. I think it was kind of new then. But I was so grateful for it because I didn't get sick on the way back, But I mean, other than that, and I think, like I say, I think it was the food. I mean, otherwise the traveling wouldn't have bothered. That was just that one experience. Well. So anyway.
How did you travel to Mexico?
Oh yeah, that's how by train.
By train.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember too. On going to Italy. Well, we went by boat. A friend of mine and myself. We went. I'm Art Institute friend. So we went by ship, and I went before. I went before she did. And she joined me later, and so my trip to Rome there, and that was mainly to. Get closer to God and to kind of see just where He was leading me. And anyway, we traveled by boat. I did get seasick, but not going so much, but coming back I was. But anyway, But that was fun too. I mean, it was nice. You know, they had like dances on ship and entertainment, and it was, you know, I mean, just typical. So for that time.
That's great.
Okay, let's take a break.
Yep. You can change cars.
Yep, pause. We're going to take a break.
Phenomenal.
If you would,
I hope this is going. I
Oh,
hope. I
It's
hope
going
this
so
is,
well.
fantastic. We're going to kill our live stream here. If you'd like to take a restroom break, maybe, or just